YouTube is just about rolling, preparing one minute to go, and then we would be ready. Kelechi, you're getting set, almost countdown. 1, 2, keeps going, yes, and second, and then we'll be fine. For me, for now, Kelechi, over to you. Thank you. We're on YouTube now live. Thank you, everyone. Yes, Kelechi, please come in line.
Yes, thank you very much, ma. Good morning, ma. Good morning. Thank you very much, ma. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, and I think others can too because they are muted.
Yeah, so thank you very much, ma, for bringing me as a host for today's series for the power of branding. Not to take too much time of our guests that are actually in the room, I'll just go straight into more or less like
your voice is low though. Can you please amplify a bit more? Thank you.
How is it now? How is it now?
Yes, it's better, stronger. Thank you.
Oh,
like
fantastic.
A plant person. Yes.
Thank you very much, man. So I said before I introduce our guest for today, I know you've done justice introducing Mr. Yinka Adebayo. I'll just more or less like just want to welcome everybody to the second in the series for Off the Power of Branding. And as you rightly said, with this series, the second series, we were talking about the role of branding, the role of media and branding. And Mr. Yinka Adebayo has over 30 or 3 decades experience in the media industry, and I see no better person to actually do justice to this topic for today. Just in a nutshell, I just want to recap what was actually discussed in the last series, where Hano Ibanjo took us through an introductory series to the power of branding, basically. And in a nutshell, she had actually told us that the branding basically is actually taking the product and personalizing the product. Is it by design? Is it by color? Is it by imagery? Is it by name? The whole idea is for you to give your product that personalization that differentiates it from competition in the market. So that's basically, and quite a number of other things were said and shared after the first series. So not to take too much of our time, I'll just go straight into introducing and telling us who our reputable guest for today is. Mr. Yinka Adebayo, as I said, has over 25 years of experience in the field of marketing and communication, with key focus on advertising and media. He started his career in PromServe Limited and worked for a few other advertising agencies, and had the opportunity to work with other multinational clients like Pfizer, Honda, NITT, the Tower Group, name it. There are so many. He also had the opportunity to work across sectors of great industries, from FMCG to telecoms to banking to aviation to mobile, name it. It's endless. And I'm pretty sure he will obviously do justice and share a few of his experiences when we listen to him going forward. He's been consistent as a high performer. This is just, and I'm not trying to doff his hat here. He's been recorded to have won several awards in all the places he has worked, including Media Reach. I know there are some of us in the room that have had the experience, either experienced Media Reach one way or the other, or are currently experiencing Media Reach as it is. He's a graduate of mass communication and later went on to get an MBA in marketing from Ado-Ekiti, the Ado-Ekiti State University. He's also an alumnus of the prestigious Lagos Business School. He's a fellow of the Advertising Practitioners Council of Nigeria. He's an ESCO member of the Media Independent Association of Nigeria, as MIPAN. He's also a faculty member of the Alphabet Media Academy. Of course, pardon me, sir, if I mentioned that you're happily married with 4 children here, so that the single ladies in the room know what we're talking about. He's currently the head of the procurement arm of OMG West Africa and Central Africa, and sits in his designation within within OMG is the executive director of media investment and sponsorship. Good afternoon, Mr. Yinka Adebayo. I hope I did justice. I hope I did good justice to your CV, sir.
Yeah, I think you've done extremely very well. Thank you so very much. At the
You're
point,
welcome,
I was wondering whether there's another speaker or I'm the only one being represented. But thank you so much for the honor. It's really a privilege to be here.
So please, sir, you can go ahead and educate us, sir. We're listening.
Okay. Just a moment. Let me just put on my slide. Let me know when you can see it.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes.
Can you see my slide?
Yes, I do. I see them.
All right. Thank you so very much. Once again, Yinka Adebayo is the name. And I'm happy to be here. So happy and honored to be here. I've seen a couple of senior professional colleagues in the room, and I'm so glad and honored to speak about the role of media in branding. As a matter of fact, like Anna rightly pointed out, everything we do is all branding. In fact, from the day we were giving birth to, we are almost like a brand. And certainly how we now navigate the world now determines what kind of accolades, what kind of attributes given to us. But we'll speak more about it. What role? But before we go into the role of media, it's important for us to really understand what exactly is branding. And I think in doing that, it's just a subset of marketing. So it's important for us to see how we are going to be traveling in today's discussion. One, we look at marketing just briefly because we have so many marketing gurus in now. We just talk about briefly, but using that to narrow down to you understanding brand and exactly what exactly is branding. Then we go to understanding the role of branding, equally steps, some little nugget that can be taken in building a successful brand. Then of course we look at types of branding available. Then we do ask ourselves critically, do we really need brand identity? Do we really need it? I think that's a question that we want to put to the house as we go along. Then what are the benefits and elements of the successful branding? Then of course, we equally have one or two cases, relatable cases that we can all identify with and possibly understand how something that started off as an ordinary product have actually grown to become an iconic brand that even the global sector is now looking at. So we start off with marketing. Simply put, marketing is an initiation of process, starting from awareness leading to action. Start off with first is to create awareness, then leading into action to say, look, how do you want people to respond? And ultimately, the action we are looking for in marketing is just to drive sales. But how we go about doing that is up to the level of thing we put. So it's an initiation of process, starting with awareness leading to action, from promoting and selling product or service to prospective consumers. It also refers to all the activities that a company does to promote and sell products and services to consumers. Marketing makes use of marketing mix. Some of these things we already know. We have the 4 P's: product, price, place, and promotion. In fact, there's a school of thought that said there's also the 5th P, which is people, and we'll get to understand why they've actually advocated for that 5th P as we go along. But basically, this is marketing, and certainly a subset of it is branding, because that ultimately determines how well we're able to travel in the marketing space, or whatever we are doing in that space does not really get with people. But bringing it to understanding brand and branding. A brand is simply a name, a term, a design, a symbol, or any other feature, even to the extent of a sound, that identifies one seller's goods or service as distinct from those of the other sellers. Meaning whether you want to use your name, whether you want to use a term, whether you want to use a design, whether you want to use a symbol, and like I said, whether you even want to use sound. Just as we are speaking here, there's some sound that when I put up, without even telling you, you know where that's from. If I say something like, I think some people in the house will know what that stands for. And people, those are things that change. Those are equities that products start to amass over the years and over time that ultimately turn them into what we refer to as brand. International Standard Organization define brand as an intangible asset. I put that word intangible in red for us to understand. It's an intangible asset. Because it's intangible, some people don't pay attention to it, and that could be their greatest unmaking. Oftentimes, it's usually their greatest unmaking because it's so intangible, you don't pay attention to it. But surprisingly, those who you are seeking to address or you are seeking to speak to, how they take pay attention to this thing, and that is the only way they can distinguish you from the rest. So it is defined as an intangible asset that is intended to create distinctive image and association in the minds, please mark my word, in the minds of stakeholders, thereby generating economic benefit and value. So meaning that there's a gain at the end of the day, economic benefit and value, and ultimately whatever we do in marketing is geared towards that. If the ROI is not delivering, then it's better not to even get it started in the first place. Meaning, if it's intangible, yes, it looks so unimportant, yeah, but it is very important. Ultimately, it determines your success or failure, because that's the only way you can distinguish yourself between in the minds of the people. I'm talking about the minds of the people. It's oftentimes referred to as what we call positioning. We'll get to talk about that more as we go along. Let me move on, please. Sorry. What's happening? Sorry. My slide is hanging up. So what exactly is branding? The marketing practice of creating a name, a symbol, a design that identifies and differentiates a product from another. An effective brand strategy gives you a major edge in an increasingly competitive market. Yes, that's the only way you can have the edge, because if your brand is clearly to say, without you even, there are some brands that without them even saying anything, just mere saying the color and you know the category they belong to, you immediately can say clearly, this is the brand. If I tell you that I'm talking about telco category and I'm talking about a color red, without much ado, you know what brand I'm talking about. If I say I'm talking about the color yellow, you know who I'm talking about. Those are distinctive ways by which immediately you say it, whether it's on screen, on hardware, whether it's online or offline, you can almost immediately relate it to say, hey, this is the brand you are talking about. And it's something that is done over time. And we get to see it as we go along. It is simply a marketing practice in which a company creates a name, a symbol, a design, or, like I said earlier, a sound that is easily identifiable as belonging to that company. There are so many areas that are used to develop brand, including advertising, customer service, promotional merchandise, reputation, and as well as logo. Because all of these avenues are things that must, and that is why it's important to state clearly that it's important for one to be single-minded when you are creating a brand, so that when one sees you on a particular platform and sees you another, you can almost relate to say, hey, you are talking about the same thing. That single-mindedness is very, very important, because that's the only way you can create the kind of identity you seek for. Let's go into the role of branding. What role does it play? Branding is a marketing practice. A company exhibits, developing, we've spoken about this. Sorry, it automatically gives your business its characteristic and personnel. Your brand is like the public face and the personality of your company. Even when you are not there, you have people almost like speaking to your glory. They almost can say, oh, this is the brand you are talking about. And it's important to pay attention to it, because oftentimes it's not something that you change on the, you change at your whims and caprices. No, because it's an identity, it takes time to build, and having built it, you need to be consistent in communicating it. It is therefore important that you dress the way you want to be addressed. It is often called positioning, like I said earlier. So I like just the way when you give birth to a baby, a child, of course, over time it grows up, it dresses in a particular way. People around the neighborhood probably say, oh, this guy is like this. And oftentimes for most family, you want your child to represent you in a way that you want to address. So meaning you need to dress them, or you need to prepare them, you need to present them in a way that you love to be addressed. And that's positioning. Oftentimes, positioning is often mistaken to be as what you do to the product. No, positioning is not what you do to the product. Oftentimes, positioning is what you do to the mind. Once you do it well and position yourself very well in the minds of people, even your enemy will fight for you. If I walk up to you right now and say, oh, yesterday I was at Shrine and I saw Professor Yemi Oshibadu dancing with one of the, you say, wow, Professor Yemi dancing in Shrine? You say, are you sure? You question. But there are some people I mentioned their name right now. You won't even bother to have to say, hey, I saw him dancing. I went in there. I went to Shrine and I saw Dino Milai dancing with, of course, I say, no, what do you expect? And it's all about positioning, because the only person and the only thing that is infallible in life is only God. Anybody can fall into any place at any point in time. But because the way that person has been positioning him or herself, oftentimes you have a situation where people are even ready to die or even fight for the person. How about the personal experience where when I was working with one of the telco category, incidentally we posted one of our lampposts along a particular road, and a guy who works with a competing brand called me to say, Yinka, I just saw your post Your board has done in display along the, but I don't think the way it's been presented is representing you guys well. So let your people pay attention to it. And immediately it occurred to me clearly that even when you are not there, there are some people who know how you are positioned. And oftentimes, because in fact, I called the guy to say, hey, but you're supposed to be a competitor, but I know the way you guys normally present yourself. From what I'm saying there, it doesn't represent you well. Have it corrected. That is the power of positioning. Because if you do it so well, you even have a situation where your enemy can fight for you even when you are not there. So it's very important. But moving on, let's look at some steps that we take in building a successful brand. There are 4 crucial steps that needs to be taken in building a successful brand. The first one is you need to define how you want to be perceived. And that is where the work really is, for you to determine, hey, what exactly is the message I want to put out there? Even when I'm not there and people are speaking about me, how do you want them to speak about that brand? What do you want them to say? And if they eventually experience the brand, what will be the experience you want them to go with it? So the question is, you need to be clear about how you want to be perceived, how you want them to describe their experience with your brand. That is a promise. If it is a promise, then you need to now put structure in place to organize your business based on the promise you seek to deliver. Oh, I want them to have a wow experience. Then you need to put measures in place to be sure that once they experience the brand, they are going away with that wow experience that keeps them going. And if you are doing that, these 2 steps are back end. You need to bring it to the fore, because like they always say, an handsome guy winking to a beautiful lady in the dark is probably just winking to himself. You need to communicate it. You need to bring it to the fore. You need to let people see, experience, and have a feel of it. There's a school of thought that said, look, these days, for we marketing professionals, we so much deluded ourselves with focusing on, God has given us 5 senses, but oftentimes we find out that we've only been using the 2 senses more frequently. That is the sense of hear and the sense of seeing. But there are a couple of other senses that need to be tapped into: the sense of smell, the sense of touch, the sense of taste. All of these are equally things that the current generation are beginning to act to say, you must communicate, and communicate it forcefully, impactfully, constructively, in a way that leads people to say, look, I've not only just promised, but I'm well positioned to deliver on the promise that I've made. And the best way to do that is to communicate it. How do we communicate it, if not through the media? But we'll get to see why. And that is a crucial role for the media, helping us to communicate what we want to say in the way we want to say it, in the dosage we need to say it, and how we want it said. So, but we get to discuss that more as we go along. The 4th step is for us to be consistent. So this is not something that happened by accident. Branding does not happen by accident. If you get into it by accident, then you fall off it by accident. For you to develop a successful brand, you need to be deliberate, you need to be intentional about it, because that's the only way you can continually check yourself. You can continually be sure to say that you are headed in the right direction. So consistency is key, to say you don't just do it once and take your leg off the pedal. You need to have your leg permanently on the pedal to say, hey, I mentioned something about being single-minded, but being single-minded in a continuous way, to see that any platform, anywhere, anytime, people see, people hear, people get to experience you is speaking to one thing, and that is the promise we mentioned earlier. Let's look at types of branding. There are basically 3 types. The first one is corporate branding, which is really for the organization. That's more important for the organization. How do we as an organization want to be seen? There's some organization where I will tell you, this thing is going on. No, never, it can never happen there. But lo and behold, just the way the organization has been positioned, that organization has been seen. There's some guys, they'll tell you the same thing happened there. No worry, they are just like that. I tell you about the police force. We all know what our impression of that police force is. But doesn't mean that all policemen are like that. There are few exceptions. But there's that general image. So corporate branding, and that's also very key, because from corporate branding that we can lead to the second one, which has to do with product, because the company is the one that produces the product. The image of that organization needs to be in the right place, because it can have ripple effect on each other. So we now move on to the next one, which is for products. So what are the different products you are bringing in? What are the different messages that you want them to be communicating? What are the different promises, the different value offering that is being pushed to the market? And this is something that equally needs to be communicated and communicated well. Then, of course, the third one too is the 5th P that I mentioned earlier, the persona. Corporate branding, product branding. Like we said earlier, corporate is the organization, product is the product. There are people behind it. Organization and product do not exist in isolation. There are some people powering it. There are some people championing it. If I say my product, oh, my corporate organization, we preach hygiene, we are neat, we are clean. The product you are selling is about hygiene. And when we see the personnel there, they are wrongly dressed. The question will be, this is a contrast. This is a contrast. So that means we need to be deliberate, we need to be sure, we need to be able to say that whatever we say at the corporate level is translating into the product offerings and the product promises and the personnel who are behind it. That's for the people who make the organization tick. And that's what people, oftentimes marketing professionals are coming to say, we need to have the fit P in the mix. The people who are carrying on that message, because that's the first ambassador that we have really to say, hey, this is the organization, this is the product. Who are those behind it? When we see them, we must be able to see a single line of identification, a single line of thought that makes people appreciate and see that clearly they have not only just promised, value is not just been, it's just not been promised to be delivered, value is clearly seen to have been delivered. Yeah. Do we really need brand identity? And think for me, that's really the critical question. And oftentimes a couple of people are saying, look, what is this branding? Just a VC, just packaging, like the word we say, just packaging. Well, you need to package right? Because if you package yourself and package your wrongly, you package on the other. But really, do we really need branding? Whether we like it or not, it is not a matter of choice. No, you don't have any choice. Whether you like it or not, you must and you will have a brand identity. There are some people you meet, even without them saying anything to you, you're already giving them a label. Just like I said earlier, you give birth to a child. That child, as the first day it comes in, that's why Yorubas will have a way. If you give birth to somebody on Sunday, they call Sunday. There are some people that they call Adebayo and all of that. Name have very major role in playing in this. So you don't have a choice. So once they're giving a name, you almost like immediately people begin to hazard the guess as to why. And that's why even for us, when we hear a product, what's the name of that product? The name almost like immediately give us an impression. And we're already like making up, oh, that name look that names look interesting, that name look fanciful. I would love to give it a try. And immediately there are some people you meet in life, just hearing your name alone, give them an impression, oh, this is somebody I would love to deal with. How you now take it further is secondary. So whether you like it or not, brand identity is key. Two things can happen. Is either you take control of the narrative or the narrative take control of you. And that is where being deliberate, being intentional, being purposeful about it becomes very key. It's something that people pay attention to. That's why some parents who are smart don't just name their kids anyhow. They must give names that carry meaningful connotation that people will be glad and willing to identify with. And that is at the other essence of that. That's where it starts from. And when you say the kids equally growing up must be able to live up to that name, must be able to live up to that promise. And that is where products, in addition to giving a brand name, we equally pay due attention to saying what kind of color will be relevant to this name, what kind of sound do we want to be associated with, what kind of, so that when we do it and do it right, people not only take ownership of it, they preach the gospel even when we are not there. So the issue of brand identity is not a matter of choice. It's not whether I like or I don't like. You will be given. Is it that you are now smart enough to take control of the narrative, or you'll have the narrative take control of it? If you don't name yourself, people will name you. So for you to be in control, it's better for you to take control of that narrative by being deliberate, by being purposeful, by being planned to make sure that wherever you step into, it is the message that you want to pass out that is being spread across, not something that people conjure. Because if you fail to do it, they will do it for you anyway. Recognition and loyalty is key. You need to be recognized. And because you are in business for the long term, you need their loyalty to say, hey, even when you are not there, they are holding the brief for you. So that is why you need to be recognized first, and loyalty comes in. A strong brand name and logo images help you to keep your company in the minds of potential customers. They even when they are not, even when you are not there, they just say, when they see the color or they see the logo, they almost can say, oh, this belongs to this. And that's the kind of message that you want to have. A strong brand name and logo help to keep your company's name in the mind of potential customers. If a consumer is happy with your product or service, a solid brand identity helps you to build consumer loyalty across your business. And that is where brand extension comes in. There are some things that you just start over by one product, but because the product has done, the brand has done so well, the product has been delivered to a level where you can even begin to, from that name, create, because the equity of that first one automatically rubs off and gives the new product or the new brand that you're coming up with a solid platform which way to migrate into the market space. And we'll see example of it as we go along. The role of media, now this is the close of our matter. It's going to be simple, really. We've said the media is all about communication. It's all about our ability to communicate with the public that it is not very much inestimable. You only can answer the guess. NT can just look at you and tell you we have so millions of number of people. It's just an estimate. There are a lot of other million number of people that they are not counting, but they'll get to see the message through the media. And that's the power of the media. People who are heterogeneous and anonymous. They have different brands, different locations. In fact, the world has now become so much abridged right now that the space is getting shrink by the seconds with the digital space. So meaning that as you are communicating, you only think you are communicating to the Nigerian audience. People in Ghana, Cameroon, in US, people in the diaspora are equally enjoying it because technology has made the world so small that you need to be sure that the message you are passing across to your audience, to your consumers in Nigeria, is also the same thing that you want to pass across to Ghana. So you must be deliberate, you must be intentional, you must be purposeful about it. So the role of media here is very simple. Since it's intangible, like we said earlier, branding is something that's intangible, you need to bring it to life. And the only way you can bring it to life is by communicating it. And that is where you need to rely, because people will only identify, will only relate to, will only speak for, will only hold brief, or will only be loyal to what they know. If they don't know, you are just doing it to yourself. So this leads us to the agenda setting theory of the media. The agenda setting theory of the media states clearly that the media is the space to provide communication, but the media also has the capability to determine what people focus on and what people discuss. And we can see it clearly. There are so many events happening around us right now. What is reported or given prominence in the media tend to command the attention of the viewers or the listeners or the recipient a whole lot more than in any other thing. Meaning for us as brand people, we need to put our communication in the media space, whether it's online or offline. But whether it's online or offline, we need to be sure that we are communicating rightly and in the right dosage, as well as the kind of message that we want to pass across is actually what is looked at. And that is what I said earlier about taking control of the narrative rather than have the narrative take control of us. There's also the reverse agenda setting theory, which of course states that really, yeah, the media is about content. The media is about setting the agenda for, but really they don't do anything. They only report whatever we do is what the media gets to report, which is a valid point to say, look, the media on their own cannot generate anything. They only report what we do as people. So the reverse agenda is saying, look, it's actually the people that set the agenda, but whether it's the people or the most important thing is that whatever the media focuses on is what generates the kind of attention and the kind of discussion that we desire to be. So meaning the agenda setting theory of the media is something that is very relevant to we brand custodian, knowing fully well that one of the best ways, one of the easiest ways by which we can carry our message and our brand gospel out is through the media. And in doing that role, they help us to inform and create awareness, inform them that this product or this brand is in existence. They equally help to create awareness for it, for people to know. We talk about the issue of, imagine a situation where you want to use color as a form of your differentiation in the marketplace. That color needs to be seen. If you want to use design, that design needs to be known. There are so many brand names out there, but the way yours is written can actually mark you out to say, hey, yes, we have so many techno in the world, but the way this techno mobile phone is written is different from the way other technos are written. And it's important. So you need to be deliberate, you need to be intentional about it, and you need to make sure that you carry that message out. And the easiest and the most potent way to carry it out there is using the media, through the media space. So it informs and helps create awareness. Also, it helps us create that distinguishing factor that we care for. To say, yes, anybody can mention any name. Yeah, names can be similar, but the identity needs to differentiate us. And that is why God, you can name two people, Yinka, but one of the things I know, I think research has also said that our fingerprint tends to distinguish us from others. That is coming from God. That no matter how the level of semblance between two people, no two persons have the same fingerprint. So even for us as the brand people, we need to take learning from that to say, hey, we need to stand apart so that what an identity that is not ours is not credited to us. We need to be deliberate, we need to be intentional, we need to be purposeful about it by trying as much as possible, painstakingly creating that distinctive identity. And having created it, we need to communicate it. And we need to rely on the media to help us establish it. To say, yes, we've informed people, you've created it, you need to establish it by stamping that authority that people will know clearly that when it comes to this, if you hear this sound, it's related to this brand. If you see this color, it's related to this brand. If you see this design or this font type, it's related to this particular brand. The other thing that media does is that it helps us confer authenticity and credibility to our brand equity. The brand name is existing. Oftentimes, when you mention something to, when you say something to your friend, the first question they ask is that, where did you get that information from? If you tell them, oh, somebody just told me, that you need to be careful about what you are spreading around. Particularly these days, with what we are seeing in the social media space, oftentimes when people pass on information to you, the first thing you want to ask by default is to say, hey, what's the source? If the source is credible, you respect it. You take it on. If it's not credible, then you drop it. So meaning that even for brand custodian, we need to put our communication in places that people will say, wow, where did you get that source from? It's from, to a large extent, that is one critical role for the media. Being sure about what they put out and making sure that what they put out is not only credible, it's genuine. To a large extent, I think that's one thing that we must still give credit to the traditional media in space. We say we know what has happened in the digital space, so many questionable things and cleaning up exercises going on there. But the traditional media, to a large extent, if I tell you I got a news today and I tell you I hear it on CNN, or I mentioned to you I heard it on local relevant, let's say I heard it on channels, to a large extent, you probably want to give him benefit of that to say, oh, 70-80%. It will be true, because over time, those people have also positioned themselves as being credible media platform. So that's what it does too. That image will also rub up on the brand that we tend to project through them, and they help us doing that. It equally helps us ensuring appropriate positioning for our brands. Like I said earlier, positioning oftentimes is not what you do to the product or what you do to the brand, it's what you do to people's mind. And when people say it, there are cases where you do so little, and the way people push on the gospel, even you'll be amazed to say, like, people taking ownership of it. A classic case is the situation where the sound I just mentioned now. There are some people immediately will tell you, oh, that's Milo. That's this, without even saying it. So they take ownership of it. It is well positioned in people's mind. Even when you are not there, they take ownership and spread the message for you unsolicitedly. But of course, that's why when you take control of the narrative, they do it positively and impactfully for you, that ultimately it rubs up very well on the brand. And those are the kind of things that media does for you. They help you put that into perspective and put it in content. Yes, let's look at some of the benefits of strong brand. It enables you to get consumer recognition, whether you are there or not. Having a strong brand works to build consumer recognition. Without you being there, people will just tell you, oh, no, that's the brand. If you imagine a situation where you're watching it, I'll tell you the color yellow is on. Immediately by default, people immediately say, oh, this is the brand that's likely to come up. So they take ownership and they spread consumer recognition. And that is very, very key, because people only buy what they recognize. If they cannot recognize you, they probably will be thinking they are spending on you. Meanwhile, your money is going elsewhere. So recognition is key. It also gives you competitive edge in the marketplace. It gives you that edge over your competition, because you're taking time to build that brand. You've taken time to acquire, to amass your brand equity. It gives you that competitive edge. The product cannot just come into the market today and think they want to take the shine off you, because over time, you succeeded in building and amassing that brand equity that you can. And the only place to do it is one road that media can actually help you to establish with little or no effort. Opportunity for expansion and extension. I mentioned this earlier. If your brand equity is so strong, if you build it so right, there's opportunity for you to extend it. And that is why you can have different flavors of the same product, because the first one has been successful. And when they see the second one, immediately the image and the success story, the promise delivered of the first one will automatically rub off on the other one coming from you. Because when they see that new one coming up, the question is, where is it coming from? Oh, it's from two people. Don't worry. They are known for quality. They will always deliver. Go ahead and buy. And that's why some products, when they hit the market, because of the heritage of where they are coming from, it's easy for them to have instant and smooth takeoff. And before you know it, then so opportunity for expansion and extension, very, very key. Then of course, over time, that's to help you build loyalty, shared value, because when brands tend to believe in your promise, that promise is not only delivered, but it's clearly seen to have been delivered. Over time, they take ownership of it. They even be the ones soliciting or even encouraging others to say, why not go to this? Why not patronize this particular brand? Because over time, they've been able to prove and they've been able to deliver on their promise. So shared value is seen, and it's gone very easy. Then it enhances credibility. That's ease of purchase. So because you are credible, people have known you, the ease of purchase is there to say, hey, once they go into the marketplace and you enjoy top of mind awareness with them, of course, your TUMA, if it's high, certainly the tendency is that your share of pocket as well as your share of mind becomes very tough. So some of the elements of successful branding: 1, brand position; 2, brand promise; then brand personality. We need to give that brand a life of its own, and it must be able to trend and live its own life. And that's very, very good. So we talk about positioning it rightly, making sure that the promise is delivered. With that, you succeeded in building a lot of equity for the brand. And of course, the brand will have a personality of its own, that can stand on its own wherever, whenever. Then, of course, there's over time, there will be heritage, there will be stories, there will be success stories that can be alluded, that can be given to the brand. And that's equally very good. So brand story content. Then brand association. When something is good, we all like to be associated with something good. In life, there's no second chance to make a first impression. If your first impression is good, there are some names I mentioned to you. I know that person. If only that person is good. If it's somebody that is associated with something negative, there's always the tendency for you to want to immediately and instantly dissociate yourself. So brand association will only be identified with successful brands. Hey, that brand. In fact, some people will be willing to even go into collaboration with you to say, oh, you are this event, I want to equally partner, because if you are there, I know you're only associated with good and credible things. So brand association becomes very, very easy and key. Yes, let's look at some relatable cases. I've succeeded in bringing these 2 cases for us to just speak to, because I think for me, I have a personal experience relating to this. And I always tell people to say, hey, I think Nigerian is it's not unfortunate that we don't appreciate what we have in this climate. Why many of us are struggling to get on the plane, to travel out, believing the grass is greener on the other side. Many of the expatriates are flourishing and coming over here, because when they see that population of 200 million people who are not only docile, they are active, vibrant, energetic, they are dazed. And they say, with that number, with that kind of population who are active, energetic, and vibrant, there's a whole lot that a brand can do with them. And that's why many of them are actually here. Expansion, yes, I know we have our challenges right now that have to do with the issue of security and all of the economy. And we only hope and pray that our leaders will get their acts right. And once we are able to get it, that this country is too blessed. This country is too blessed to be paid. God has blessed us with so much abundance for us to be living in a state of deprivation. And we hope and pray that our leaders will get their acts right. A classic for me is the first one on the right, local brand. Chin Chin. Many of us, when we are growing up, we grew up seeing Chin Chin made in the corner of our street, unbranded, unpackaged, unsolicited, people we are selling. And they remain where they have for years. It took an expatriate to come into this country, pick the same Chin Chin, the same way we are doing it, package it, give it a name, Mini Chin Chin. And lo and behold, and like I said earlier about being deliberate and purposeful about it, Mini Chin Chin, I was privileged to be part of those who launched this product in this market. And how did we start? We said Mini Chin Chin. The slogan then was break the bottom. Oftentimes, because it was the research shows us that people fall on snacks, people fall back on snacks when they are bored, when they take something to keep them going and all of that. So let's break the bottom and break the Mini Chin Chin. And we said, look, if the slogan is going to be break the bottom, one of the strongest platforms that we can relate with is to key into one of the key passion points of Nigerians. What is that key passion point? Comedy. It's only in Nigeria that Alibaba will be on stage performing comedy and they'll be looking at what he's saying. That's why many of those comedians, I personally do have my heart for them, because it's not easy to make the average Nigerian smile. In fact, they are looking at what he's saying. It's only in Nigeria that Okusha will be on the replay. But why did he play like that? He should have done it this way. We know how to do it more than those who are doing it. Yes. So, and that was key. So we used comedy as a platform to launch it, because the slogan is say, break the bottom. The only way if I break the bottom is to create fun, create excitement. Now it has managed to create, but I recall in starting off with this round, what we did in addition to giving it that name of Minimi was also to identify a platform that will give us instant take-up. For some of us who will remember, Nigeria Ifo used to have Alibaba on the show. And if you are using comedy of your as one of your strongest platforms to go into the media space, who is best placed to be associated with than the father of comedy himself, Alibaba? But of course, if you approach Alibaba to say, let's do brand endorsement, you know what it will cost. What we did was to say, he has a program on Nigeria Info. We went into partnership with Nigeria Info sponsoring only 15-minute segments of that show. The show was 2 hours. I think it's run from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. every day, Monday to Friday. And we said, okay, fine, let's just sponsor 15-minute segment of that show, which was taken on by the brand. That's why we launched the product then. And we did it in such a way that we told Adebayo, all we want to do is just to give that 15 minutes window to people to call onto the show and let them crack joke for you. You are the father of comedy. You will determine the joke of the day. And whoever wins the joke of the day wins a carton of mini chin chin. And lo and behold, we started first week, second week, and all of that. And of course, because it was a new product, we had limited budget to work with. So we just partner, paying the station the cost of airtime, paying equally the presenters some presenters fee, because naturally, whether we are there or not, the program will run. But making sure that we are equally very smart with our 15-minute segment to say the program must start at 2. We are not going to be doing our 15 minutes 2 to 2:15. We are going to be starting midway into the show. So we went for 2:45 to 3. Because the beginning of the show, you would have given us opportunity to amass the audience, go in midway into the show, pull out 1 hour 15 minutes is over, then leave the remaining. And lo and behold, what did we end up with? We ended up with a situation where Nigerians were calling in cracking jokes because they believed they could do it better than Adebayo, and he was determined the winner. But when they determined the winner too, those who have won yesterday will come onto the show the following day to pick their prize on the show with Adebayo. So they have some moment of fame with Adebayo. What that does for the rating of the station is magical. And even Adebayo came back to admit later that, look, you guys have succeeded. You guys have only succeeded in recruiting me as your brand ambassador, because anytime he goes out, people are always telling me, I tried to call onto your show to crack the joke and win the carton, but I could not call in, or you didn't pick my call. But I'm seeing you face to face and we had my own carton of mini meetings. And lo and behold, it was given to him. And today, mini meetings has become an iconic brand. Mini chin that we all grew up seeing in the corner of our places, being prepared, unbranded, unsolicited. Now it has become an iconic brand. And that has equally created what I said earlier, extension, because in addition to mini chin, we now have what we call mini noodles. Because this was successful, there's the need to now extend and building on the heritage of mini mint. That has also taken off and taken off very well and brilliantly well. And lo and behold, one of the biggest property we have in this land, to Big Brother Nigeria, when we took mini mint to the house, I think some 4 years ago, it was amazing, the success story, the demand. And that is what actually encouraged the brand owners to say, look, there's a time for extension. And now we have mini noodles now joining the plate. And of course, for mini chin, there are now so many variants. You have the chocolate variants, you have so many variants of it, now equally extending to other categories. So it's interesting. So that's one case study. I'll be interested in taking questions on it much later. I think the other one too, this one is another classic one for me. Kellogg's. It's not a local brand, it's an international brand. But at times too, you need to be very, very careful. Nigeria is a very sensitive market. I always question my client to say, hey, what you've done successfully in other places, don't take Nigerians for granted. That's one of the things. We are very proud people. We are proud not because we know our onions. We know wherever we stand, we can hold our chest and hold our home. Kellogg's, they came up into the country, factory set up over, I think, $100 million factory located somewhere around Lekki Export Processing Zone. And the global CEO of Kellogg's was in the country to declare upon that ultra-modern factory. I recall telling the client then to say, hey, this investment is huge. If this investment is huge, we need to use the media to promote it, because we need to take control of the narrative. But the client was like, no, Yinka, we don't need to do any media stuff. This is a global brand. Naturally, to get to the market, you said, so sometimes when you advise clients and they say, look, this is the way they want to do, you allow them, but to be on record that you have said their own, you can only have your say, they can have their way. But on the long run, lo and behold, because another thing they equally did to Kellogg's was that we all know Kellogg to be a premium brand. We all know it to be an international brand, and because of that, it's pretty much expensive. But they equally are aware of the economic power of the average Nigeria. So they were able to break it down into small SKUs that we had. I think then they had 50 naira packages as well as 100 naira packages, so that the average family can also have access to quality breakfast meal on their table. And that was the lesson. But lo and behold, they launched, pushed the product to the market. Immediately, distributors started demanding. And all of a sudden, I think about 3 weeks into that sales effort, I got a call from the GM who said, look, Yinka, I think it was around 9 p.m. at night, to say, hey, we need to discuss. What's happened? That something has come up. What has come up? Lo and behold, somebody has gone to the social media space to say, look, Nigerians, don't be deceived. How can the global brand that you've always known for years, Kellogg, be selling for 50 naira, 100 naira? What those people are selling for you is actually sawdust. Went on social media and it trended. And the GM was running a task, and he came to me. And when he came to me around that 9:30 p.m. on that day, I just told him, you remember when I told you when you build the factory and you said you don't need media, you don't need to publicize? Because he said, yeah, I said, remember, I said, your inability to do that is what has led to this. Because a reasonable person will know that you don't need to set up a factory of $100 million in Lekki for you to package sawdust for people to eat. It's an aberration, but because you fail to take control of the narrative, the narrative has taken control of you. Are you now ready to play the game the way it ought to be played? They spent millions. We went on media tour, convincing people, showcasing clearly that, look, this is not just an imported brand. This is actually being media. Apart from providing employment to the average Nigerian, is equally something that ultra-modern factory that other countries are clamoring should be situated in their home client is here for us in Nigeria. That would make a success of it. Now it's only our. And lo and behold, we're able to remedy the situation. And lo and behold, today, that brand has not only grown in this market, it has also extended. We now have so many flavors of Kellogg's in, Kellogg's Cocoa Pops, Kellogg's Crisps and Crisps. We usually have the brand that has just been launched, the Kellogg's Go Green. It's been an amazing story. And for me, Nigeria is such a vibrant country that we don't even need to look to the global market to have example. We have so many case studies here for us to take learnings from and use it as a springboard for rush to the package and relaunch ourselves. It's been an amazing experience. We take question on it. So, part in short, branding does not happen by accident. Said that it has to be deliberate, it has to be planned, and it has to be sustained. You need to be deliberate, you need to be purposeful about it, you need to be intentional about it, so that, and you need to sustain it, because that's the only way you can have it established. People and brands with purpose will always survive and will always thrive. People and brands. So if you have purpose and you put value on the table, that's what people are looking for. Everybody can run away from anything. I've not seen anybody run away with value. When value is on the table, the blind will see and the deaf will hear. That's the value delivery. Nobody's going to keep quiet for you to be heard. You've got to raise your voice, bearing in mind the 5 W's and H. What are those 5 W's? You need to know what to say. You need to know when to say it. You need to know where to say it. You need to know why you want to say it. And you need to know who is better placed to say it. Then the H is how do you say it? In life, what you say is not as important as how you say it. So we need to be sure of what we want to say. We need to be sure about how we want to say it, because it's very, very important. It can go a long way in determining the success or failure of our communication expenditure. There's nothing like dying brand. For me, I'm a strong advocate. What we have are dying managers. It is when the managers of the brands are bereft of ideas, that is when the brand dies. Well, having said that, please bear in mind, if your presence is not felt, your absence will not be missed. You've got to make it count anytime and every time, particularly for us as brand custodian. Thank you very much. Wishing you a happy branding. Thank you. Hello.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yinka, that's a great one. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen in the room, would you come in and say thank you to Yinka for a good delivery, for powerful delivery? Yes. Would you please come in and let's thank you. Great presentation. Thank you. Great delivery. Thank you, Yinka. Thank you. Very well done. Very well done. Thank you. Very well done. Yes, thank you, Yinka. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Very well done. Okay, so in the next couple of minutes, we just want to take some questions. I think that somebody dropped in a question earlier. If I remember, I think I was asking about exclusivity. What is the role or power of exclusivity? What role does exclusivity play in media? Do you want to speak to that, Yinka?
Yes.
Yinka, did you? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, for exclusivity, well, it depends on what kind of exclusivity being talked about here. Is it category exclusivity? Then, of course, people need to be careful. We shouldn't just use word. Oftentimes, there are some people you don't have any competition, and you're saying, look, it depends on what we're actually trying to say. Exclusivity for what? There are some, you get to see, in a product life cycle, there are cases where you need collaboration. You need people to come on board. You need people to join forces with you for you to be able to get to where you are going. In fact, these days, it's oftentimes even better for us to have that collaborative effort. But where you need to seek exclusivity, yes, might be a way of protecting your territory, but it needs to be clearly defined to say clearly what is this exclusivity, what's it going to cover, so that you don't end up shooting yourself in the foot by blocking those who are in a position to help you and take you to that higher level that you ought to be. So I think for me, it's something that needs to be studied very carefully and be sure that the category or the kind of exclusivity you're asking for is something that will propel and add value to your brand, rather something that will take away from it. Thank you. Hello, am I being heard? Hello. I hope I've not been talking to myself.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I'm sorry. It's my problem. It came from me. Right, sorry. Right. Okay, I was saying that you are no longer sharing slide, are you? Would you please stop sharing slide?
Okay, let me just stop that.
Okay, so let me see, because I think there are a few questions, but I'm unable to see them. I'm unable to see them properly, and that's why I'm wondering. Okay, I just want to ask anyone, I don't know, is any of my background, are you able to see? Because I'm struggling to see I don't know why, maybe I should stop. Let me see if I stop my video. It shouldn't be, ideally I should see the questions, which I'm unable to see properly. So, all right, okay, while trying to look for some of the questions I think were asked, somebody asked privately to say, what is the role of influencers in media? And what should you consider to use before you use an influencer? Thank you.
Well, that's a very good question. The role of influencer in media. Well, I think they're pretty much in the media, but I mentioned something about online and offline. The influencers operate more on the online space. But I think for me, really, and they've been very, very impactful. They've succeeded in helping to build good equity for brands and all of that. I think it's important. Like I said earlier, this thing is too sensitive to be toyed with. You need to be deliberate, you need to be purposeful, you need to be intentional about it. Many of our celebrities have gotten to where they are by accident. We do apologize. I had the opportunity of speaking to them when I delivered a lecture at the comedy EcoFest comedy event put together by Lagos. And I told them that, look, you have what we call the 4 P's: passion, perseverance, positioning, and patronage. What they have succeeded in doing is that passion has led them to where they are. They have been able to persevere, but for many of them, they are not well positioned. If somebody you're associating with is not well positioned, it's going to do damage to your brand rather than add value to it. So those you are choosing as influencers, be sure that they are influencing you for the right purpose, not for the wrong purpose. Because if you are associated with it, certainly it will rub off. So we need to be careful, we need to be intentional, and it's equally important. I think it has gotten to a level where brand owners should not just sign on brand ambassador. You need to sit them down to educate them. Yes, you've done a couple of things when you are growing up. Now that you are at this stage and you are sitting with my brand, there are some loads, there are some things that you need to trade off in order for you to trade up. And that is the way it is in life. You get to a particular position in life where you need to trade off in order for you to trade up. And many of them need to be schooled, need to be educated along that line. That there are some packages you've been carrying along, you now need to let go, because the role you are going to be playing, the level you are right now, require you to shed off some unnecessary weight so that you are headed in the right direction.
All right. Thank you very much, Yinka. Yes, I was actually going to do this, but somebody beat me to say if you have any question, so that we can also have the people in the room speak, that'll be fine. So would you please indicate by raising your hand? If you raise your hand, if you show that, I think we'll be able to help unmute you, give you permission to unmute yourself, right? Esther, okay, I'm seeing some hands raised, yes. Esther, I'm seeing Taiwo, okay. Please unmute, Esther, unmute. I'm giving you permission to please unmute. Taiwo Jomu has a question. Laide Adeyemo, let's take these 3 questions. Thank you. Would you please unmute? Who is going first? I think Esther, please come first. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for allowing me to speak. Thank you. My name is Esther Ozarima. This was a very insightful class. You know, I happened to bump across it, I think, yesterday, and I was like, let me just have a look and come into the class, and it's been very insightful. Thank you, Mr. Yinka. So my questions are, before I get to my question, rather, just a quick one. I own a production company. You know, it's a new startup, and I haven't been so happy with the results, you know, so far, because it's a startup and I'm trying to build my brand, you know. But let me just go to my question straight ahead, because the production, you know, media, basically, it's very saturated. That is the market is very saturated. A lot of brands already have their, you know, service providers, similar service providers. And whenever you're reaching out or you're trying to get them to, would I say, test your products, they already have their service providers and they're just shutting so many doors on you. So this is not motivating enough. You know, it's not so motivating to continue. And sometimes my emotions just get the best of me and I only work when I feel like, you know, so how to manage properly and deal with a brand that is very saturated, a space rather that is very saturated. Thank you.
Well, interesting. I like that question. But of course, you saw it before you got in. But really, for me, it's a challenge that you must be prepared for. And like I said, part of the thing I mentioned in my presentation is that in life, nobody is going to keep quiet for you to be heard. So meaning you've got to raise your voice. And for me, the only antidote I can put to you is to say, take every assignment or every project that you work on as if it's yourself, it's your first. You know, when you first get to the office every day, is the first assignment, you are fresh, you give it your best. So take every assignment as if it's your first, but do it as if it's the last. So that when you leave it on the table, anybody that goes in there and sees it will say like, wow, you know, when you are doing your last assignment, you want to put in your best to say anybody that comes across this thing must doff their hat. Yes. And with that, like I said earlier, nobody runs away from value. Once value is on the table, the blind will see and the deaf will hear. Keep doing it, and you'll have that opening very soon. Rest assured.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Yinka. If I may just add a little more touch to it for you, Esther, question would be that before you set out, you know, to have your own production company, something pushed you. What pushed you? What was your motivation? Is it, okay, I just want a business, or I just know how to do this, or I really truly want to make a difference? Because if you want to make a difference, then you will need, the hard work will be what is missing. You have the same issue you have, every other person has the same issue in whatever segment and market or industry they are playing in. There are no too many white spaces. It's a red ocean most often times. So you then need to come back and say, okay, so what is missing? What is missing? Sharing quick example here. There is a company, I mean, we're trying to grow our business naturally as a consulting business. And one of our staff read about a company where there has been a change of management globally. So another company is bought into this. And this other second company we're interested in is in Nigeria, seated here. So once that manager brought that information at that point in to say, look, this company has been bought over by another, whatever, Poland or Polish company, blah, blah, blah. We sat and we said, okay, this may be a window for us to get into this company locally. We began to say, who do we know in the company? We know one or two people. What are their issues? This is where the point is. They have all agencies. They have every agency for this, for that, for that, for that. But we are consultants. But when we started, through whom we knew, we put something to that person that struck a chord in terms of a challenge they have. And not all the other agencies haven't been able to tell them, give them a roadmap. Hear my word, roadmap. The roadmap was getting into the business. Okay, can you do that for us? Okay, can you explore that for us? And that was it, and we did this business. So in essence, just like, you know, Yinka is saying, value is many things, you know, to different people. You must be able to then, you know, kind of stratify who are these customers, what is missing, what is that extra, can you afford it, can you give them, and all of that. If it's still same thing as same thing, same price, no value, nothing, baby, you're gonna, maybe some tears. All right, thank you, Yinka. All right, so let's have Taiwo Ojomo go now. Thank you, Yinka, this is for you again. Taiwo, please unmute. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Yes, Mr. Yinka mentioned something about the impact of the influencer strategy. I mean, like that if you choose the wrong influencer.
Taiwo, looks like there's a radio. There's another communication at your end. Is interfering. Thank you. Okay. Please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So okay. Now, I'm saying that Mr. Yinka mentioned something earlier that the choice of influencers that you choose for your brand actually goes a long way in determining maybe how serious that brand is. Let me put it that way. I wanted to say something that okay, what if yes, influencers they all influence for certain reasons, and it depends on what they do and the kind of audience that they have. So let me take for instance, let me say for instance, let me use an example of an influencer. Okay, let me say Portable as an influencer that is, though he's an artist, he's a singer, and then he's also an influencer because he has people that look up to him, even though he's not really the influencer we would like to talk about, and that I would like to talk about, but he's also an influencer. We don't have a choice as called it because of the audience he has. So now let me assume my chin business. Now let me just take for instance, okay, I have a chin business just like the one of that minute. So and I say okay, let me choose Portable as my influencer. Yes, he has his own bad characters and everything, but the audience, even is to me, the both the good and bad. I mean, how would I even put it for everyone to understand? The audience is diverse, which means it's mixed with different people, both people that smoke, people that do all sorts of things, but it's still an audience. So which means that these people will actually buy my chin. So what the influencer do? I mean, yes, it made mention that okay, you will educate them that okay, this is what we do, and there are some things that you won't be doing because of you're representing the brand and all that. What if the influencer feels like, I mean, that I should be free to do whatever I want, in as much that you are seeing your sales in as much that you are seeing the sales as that I'm representing people. I mean, I'm actually pushing for sales for people and all that. So I want to say that shouldn't be yes, we should be filtering them that okay, this one is good, this one is bad, but they're all influencers and they can all drag sales. I mean, they can all pull in sales for one's brand. So that's just what I wanted to tell Mr. Yinka.
Thank you, Taiwo. To be honest, I struggled to understand the point. Yinka, you want to tell us? I don't know if others understood that, but I personally struggled to understand the point.
Well, I see it more as a comment rather than a question.
Okay, yes, the comment.
Which of course everybody is entitled to. Just the way an MD will tell you, yes, everybody can say anything about Portable, but that's the person I want. No problem, but you must be ready for the implication. You see, oftentimes it's always better to see the train coming before it hits you. The only place that will apologize is when you don't see the train, but when you see it coming and you are prepared for it, then you'll be able to manage whatever crisis comes in there from. So sales can be going well tomorrow. Sales might be going on well for now, but the question is this sustainable? Is it something that will last? So critical question, but it's something that the brand owners can determine how they want to navigate and be ready for whatever the fallout is. No problem.
Okay, I take it that others understood the point, but maybe some of us didn't get. All right. So thank you. Okay. So I have Laide, please go ahead, and finally will be Inusa. And after that, we are almost like yes. Okay, Laide, is there any other person with a question? So we take one more finally. Anyone more aside Laide Adeyemo and Inusa Bello? All right. If no other, we take it like this, two more, and we call it a day. Okay. All right. Thank you, Laide. Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. So for me, I was the one that raised the issue of ownership, exclusivity in owning, and well-delivered paper. And one thing I've realized is that, just like you rightly said, that the brand is what distinguishes you in the marketplace. But one thing that we have found out is that a lot of people have the brand, but they don't own it. Now, when you don't own it is when you don't register it as a trademark. A lot of people conceive their ideas. When they conceive it, they just run to the market without protecting it. And that does not give you exclusivity to own. It is only when you register it as a trademark that you will have the exclusivity to own it. Because if you don't do that, then there will be brand dilution. There will be people who will ride on your goodwill, who also will infringe, on the brand that you have built so much, that you have worked for. Incidentally, the law will give credence only to the first to file, and registration of your brand is territorial. The fact that maybe your brand was registered, it made mention of Kellogg's, it referred to Kellogg's. The TRIPS agreement that allows well-known marks to be understood or to be accepted, the provision of which is not in our local law as at now. Right. So my comment with this is to ensure that as brand owners and as brand enthusiasts, to always advise that when brands are conceived, the next thing is to protect. The next thing is not to go to the market. The next thing after conceiving it is protect it, own it exclusively, because even when you are not using it, you can always license it because your brand is an asset. Yes, it's intangible, but you can make money out of it even by licensing it to other people. Okay. And then you will get money therefrom.
Okay, let me ask. Can I ask a question? Lady, are you a legal practitioner?
Yes, I am.
Ah, yes, I see. Okay, so you are a brand commercial legal practitioner. All right, thank you for the point. I think, yes,
a trademark legal practitioner.
You are, yes, okay, that's fine. Thank you. Right.
Thank you very much.
Okay, all right, thank you. So, Inosa, please go ahead.
Good afternoon. And really thanks for inviting us. And really, I've enjoyed the session. The presentation has been excellent. And I want to really, sorry, I couldn't recall the name. Is it Larry, the name, the presenter? Great job, great slide, very simple and straightforward. I just want to throw one question at, just for discussion's sake. These days people talk about SME being the engine growth of the Nigerian economy. You might look at big multinationals that some of us have worked for. Even they struggle with the media budget. They struggle with marketing budget. People talk in terms of digitalization now, so we find a lot of stuff happening within the social media environment. And so the question is, how do we rate currently now with the fact that even for some of the youth you see, including our children, they don't even want to watch TV. Unless some funny, lousy programs that cannot touch their interest. So, therefore, how do you rate, therefore, radio, TV, print media that have less circulation right now, vis-a-vis the social media platforms? And if you were consulting for a small organization, what will you really recommend if they must build their brand? I've heard your comments about the celebrities and the brand influencers and the rest of them. But what exactly will you recommend? What will you want to recommend as a tactical approach for a struggling SME kind of organization with limited budget?
All right, thank you. Thank you so very much. It's been a very challenging, particularly these are Gen Z that watch the one. It's not like they don't watch TV. We need to be sure what exactly are they watching. They are watching something. What they are demanding for is simple, and I'll break it down. And for me, I relate it because I have kids at home. They belong to this guy. They are just radical, different setup to say, why should they follow the norm? The question they are asking for is that why must I begin to 9 to 10 p.m. news? Why must I be home at 9? Why can't I determine to say, look, when I want to watch the news, I can have it. It's more or less like what they call content on the go. The question is, how do we now begin to? I was opportune to be delivering a lecture at the last social media, and I said, look, we've seen the media, the only food that the media eats is content. That means content is king. If content is king, how many are we crowned? Have we researched into this Gen Z to know the kind of content they want and be able to fine-tune our offering in a way that delivers it to them where, when, and how they want it? That is that. So once we give them the right content, they're able to identify, me are you. And they have so many key passion points. that we need to be alive to, and we need to be sensitive to, and be able to fashion content that deals with them, whether it's education or some of them want to be successful educationally too. So they don't say no to educational content, but we need to package it in a way that appeals to them. If it's musical, it has so many areas. But back to your question about SMEs, I know they are not in a space to compete with the multinational. But even the multinationals right now, they are even struggling with media budget. It will always be that, because the media operate in the same environment that we operate in. We all know what the cost of diesel is today. And most people are not bothered whether the media is there. Once they press their button, the radio must be on. They put on their remote, the TV must be on. How they do it, they don't. But they need diesel to keep on this. So we know the operating cost. So meaning the cost of media too is a bit high. But for SME, like I always tell people, there is always a cloth for every size. You don't need to start that big. And that is why you have so many other platforms. Yes, the digital place is there, well, which of course the issue of credibility and all of that could be, but there's so many starting points. There's equally the radio. The radio is cost effective, but it equally has that mass appeal. And is it possible for you to look at a kind of like collaborative form? There are so many ways to skin a cat, a kind of like partnership. I just mentioned to you about a Black Lab Minimum when we are just starting up. We only sponsored a 15-minute segment on a program of 2 hours. That 15 minutes, you see what that content did for that show, apart from the rating, you know what, and we are quite very strategic by making sure that the 15 minutes is not like when it starts 2 to 2:15, or when it's end 3:45 to, no, we are at the middle. The middle is such a way that gather the audience, we go in, we pull out our 15 minutes, continue the program later. In fact, from my own personal experience, that program, the whole 2 hours is actually for Minimi. Because immediately Alibaba on the show, people are calling in, I want to answer the Minimi question. So they start singing praises of Minimi from 2. See, the start segment starts off at 2:45. And by 3, even when they end, people are saying, I want to be part, I want to. So the whole program, so you succeeded in getting the benefit of 2 hours. I pay just 15 minutes. There are so many smart ways, but the most important thing, the media plays, we need to carry out our research. Everything has to be research-led to be sure that as we are putting our foot forward, we are putting the best foot forward, and we are maximizing the opportunity it offers, making sure that the ROI on whatever investment we are putting across is not only delivered, it is clearly seen. And we need, so as we go along, we probably need to be assessing. That's what they call evaluation process. This step we are taking, is it right? Is it delivering value? If it is, we continue. And if it is, we can increase. If it is not, quickly pull back and re-strategize.
Thank you.
They are not stable. They move, change by second. It's by second billing. So you must really be on your toes too.
Right. Thank you, Yinka. I'm having to rush everyone now. We have 5 minutes to do this. Anita Adetula, thank you for calling and for joining in. I know you are far away, not from this part of Africa. All right. Well, from this part of Africa, but not from Nigeria. All right. So can we just take it very quickly, and then Esther, you're back very briefly. In 5 minutes, we should be out of here. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining. Thank you. Just stay with us for a few more minutes, and then we call it a wrap. Thank you. Yes, Anita, please go ahead. Hello, Anita.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. I wasn't able to unmute myself. Good afternoon, all. Thank you very much, sir. I'm happy that I joined this session. Please, towards the end of your presentation, you said something like, you said there is no dying brand, but there are dying brand managers. So I've been introspecting on that statement, because I know of so many brands that have enjoyed a whole lot of effort and support, but at the end of the day, the corporate decision was to let the brand go. So I'm just trying to understand the perspective that you made the statement. I mean, what's a brand manager supposed to do to ensure that he or she does not become a dying brand manager? Thank you.
Thank you so very much. It's a power of ideas. Just when some people are exiting, some people are coming in. The same industry that you are running away from, some are making waves, are just coming into it and making, and that is the way life is. And so what I was saying is that, look, we need to be aware of the consumers we are taking. It's like a whirlwind. You don't want to stand in front of the tide. You must be able to flow with the trend. And that's where most people actually miss it, believing that you can use the method of the past to galvanize and navigate the way of the present. No, you need to constantly upgrade yourself. If only we can do 50% of what we do to brand to our individual self, we won't be the same way. You need to continue. That's why you have to like reinventing, relaunching, re-strategizing, repulling. Just the same brand that the management is saying, no, pull it down, it's not profitable. Another brand is launching it tomorrow, and they're making such
right.
the same audience. So we need to constantly research and make sure we are up to the mark, up to date with our research effort to know what the consumers want and be able to fill in that back, because there's always a vacuum to be filled.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Anita, maybe I should also say that we should know, for everyone here who is a director, a business owner, you are the first brand manager. So the managing director of a business, the sales director, the finance director, the executives are all brand managers. So if they ask for strategic reason, for whatever reasons, if they ask a practicing brand manager, marketing brand manager to say we're going to walk away from the brand, it means that the brand died, not because of that one-man functional brand manager, but because the senior brand manager, so to speak, the brand directors are bad people who probably or who possibly didn't see the opportunities. If we go by the argument of Yinka here to say, look, what you're running away from, others are coming into. Yeah, but we do know that there are reasons, sometimes beyond even the local executives, why brands are killed or brands are allowed to die. You know, something sometimes beyond them all. But it then just means that from whatever angle that decision came from, that person is a bad brand manager. So what you walked away from yesterday, tomorrow becomes a mega brand. And you are like, wow, and we started, but we walked away. Right, last but not the least, thank you. We're going to have Esther. Make it quick. Thank you, Esther. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. My question is, for a new brand that is not financially viable to employ or deploy a sales team or a growth team, you know, to ensure adequate leads and public communication, you know, what are the advisable measures for such a brand? And secondly, you mentioned online and offline media. For a brand that, you know, their leads or conversion of leads is going to be mostly through online media, you know, advertising, media, running of adverts across different social media platforms, but then there's financial constraints. What are your advices for, you know, such a brand? Thank you.
The financial problem, just the way it's facing a one-man business, the same way it's facing multinational, it's just like the bigger the head, the bigger the head. And the content is simple. You have, even for creative, you have so many hot shops. There are some guys who operate in the, you see, you need to just make use of what is available at your level. Just like the agencies, you have the big agency, you have the small agency, you have the medium agency, you have the small agency. The same way for creative hot shop, you have the big one, you have the small one. But the most important thing is that make sure that you are dealing with professionals who know their onions, who are able to advise you professionally and put it. And the cost doesn't need to be that big. There are some people who are smart, even some individuals who are good creatively, and they can advise you professionally, and they are willing and ready to grow with you. And we should also not lose sight of the opportunity of collaboration, because not everything is money that you must pay by cash. There are so many ways by which you can collaborate, trade-off. So there are so many ways to skin a cat. But the most important thing is that branding, whether we like it or not, we just must do. We now need to look at cost-effective way at that level. It will get to a point where you go to a particular where you know that, oh, let me go for the big boys. And at that point, nobody holds you back. So at different levels, there are different shops that can cater for your need.
Sure. All right. Thank you very much, Yinka. This is actually the end of this show. I've come on the gallery view, so we just see ourselves and see. On behalf of the Redwood Consulting team, we want to say thank you very much for joining us today. And especially to you, Yinka. I knew you like over 20 years, close to 25 or 30 years.
Yes. Way back. It's been a long-standing relationship.
Yes. Right.
And that passion that I saw very much there. I can almost touch it. All right.
Thank you. You've always been a teacher. When Yinka starts to talk, you guys just listen, because Yinka is going to pull it from different angles. We're really so glad. Thank you very much for joining. I see in the room a lot of people. I just will not mention names, but I've seen many experts who are going to speak to us one of these months. Okay, please note that this is a monthly session. We're trying to keep it to the last Wednesday of every month. So for your planning purposes, okay, because it's just trying to bring learning to us, you know, as much as possible. We try and keep it not exceeding 1 hour 30 minutes max. Thank you for joining today. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. It's back on YouTube. Please go there on YouTube and like it and share it and let other professionals know about it. And get ready. One of these days, you're going to be our guest to just educate and throw enlightenment on us. So on behalf of everyone, say thank you. Somebody is asking if it's recorded. It's on YouTube right away. So you can go in there. Just check Hannah Oyebanjo. I think it's there. Yes, we don't have a Redwood handle, so it's Hannah Oyebanjo. It's somewhere there. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Go and do well with your media. Spend as best as you can. And show, some people are still coming in. Do you see the point? I'm having some people now in the waiting room. Sorry, you're just coming to meet the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, as it were. All right. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you, everyone. Let's do have a good time. Keep us posted. If you need any help or assistance, talk to us. We're there. We will help you. We say you don't have too much money. Yeah, but when you want value, you got to pay something for it, and we can be considerate for you. You can talk to us. Thank you, everyone. Let's have a very good month and see you again in August. God bless you and thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Oh, I thought I should unmute you people, give you permission. Oh my God, I apologize. Okay, so we stopped the YouTube in case anybody